Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood before the massive view screen in Earth's primary defense command center. The stars looked peaceful from here, but he knew better. For months, his teams had been tracking the massive fleet moving toward Earth's solar system. 50,000 alien ships, all armed and ready for war. The largest invasion force the galaxy had ever assembled, and it was coming for humanity. Dr. Park Hee-jin walked into the command center carrying a datapad filled with intelligence reports. She had spent years studying the aliens who called themselves the Galactic Coalition. 12 different species, all united under one goal: complete control of every inhabited world in the galaxy. The coalition had ruled space for thousands of full years, crushing any species that refused to bow down to their authority. "The diplomatic ship just entered our outer sensor range," Dr. Park said to Admiral Kim. "They want to meet at the old mining station near the asteroid belt." Admiral Kim nodded. He had expected this. The coalition always sent diplomats first. Not because they wanted peace, but because they enjoyed watching lesser species beg for mercy before the real attack began. Earth would not beg. Earth would not surrender. Earth had been preparing for this day since humans first left their home planet 50 years ago. Captain Lee Min-ho entered the command center and saluted Admiral Kim. His ship, the Terra Nova, was humanity's most advanced warship. It looked crude, compared to alien technology, but Captain Lee knew appearances could be deceiving. Human engineers had spent decades studying every piece of alien technology they could find, and they had learned some very interesting things. "Sir, the fleet is ready," Captain Lee reported. "All ships are in position and waiting for your orders." Admiral Kim smiled. The coalition thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had barely learned to travel between stars. They had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. Every human ship in the fleet carried weapons that would surprise their enemies. Every human pilot had trained for scenarios the aliens had never imagined. Every human soldier was ready to fight, with a determination that would shock the galaxy. Commander Yoon Sora approached the group. She led Earth's Special Operations Division, the most elite fighting force humanity had ever created. Her teams had been operating in secret throughout Coalition space for years, gathering intelligence and preparing for this moment. The aliens thought Earth was isolated and alone. They were wrong. "The resistance groups are in position," Commander Yoon reported quietly. "When the shooting starts, they'll be ready to cause chaos behind enemy lines." Dr. Park studied her datapad again. The Coalition's lead negotiator was a Vorthak general named Krixtal. The Vorthaks were the military backbone of the Coalition, a species that had built their entire culture around conquest and domination. General Krixtal had personally overseen the destruction of 17 different civilizations. He was coming to Earth expecting another easy victory. "They'll demand our immediate surrender," Dr. Park explained to the group. "The Coalition always gives their targets 30 days to submit completely. They think the threat of their massive fleet will make us give up without a fight." Admiral Kim walked closer to the view screen. He could see the distant lights of Coalition ships beginning to gather at the edge of the solar system. 50,000 vessels, each one larger and more powerful than anything Earth had ever built. Any reasonable species would look at those odds and surrender immediately. But humans had never been particularly reasonable. "Let them come to the meeting," Admiral Kim decided. "Dr. Park, you'll lead our diplomatic team. Captain Lee, I want you there as military advisor. Show them that we're not afraid." The meeting took place aboard an old mining station that had been converted into a neutral zone. Dr. Park led the human delegation, walking calmly through corridors that would soon witness history. The Coalition representatives were already waiting. In the main conference room, their alien forms imposing and threatening. General Krixtal was exactly what Dr. Park had expected. Tall, armored, and radiating the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. The other Coalition members represented the various species that made up their alliance. All of them looked at the humans with the same expression. Barely concealed contempt for a species they considered beneath their notice. "Humans of Earth," General Krixtal began, his voice translated by universal communicators, "you will surrender your world to Coalition authority within 30 standard days. Your primitive technology and simple military cannot resist our power. Submit now, and your species will be allowed to serve the Coalition as workers and soldiers." Dr. Park listened to the demands without showing any emotion. She had heard similar threats before, during humanity's first contact with Coalition scout ships. Those scouts had not returned to report their findings, a fact that the Coalition leadership apparently did not know. General Crixtel, Dr. Park replied calmly, humanity appreciates your offer, but we must decline. Earth will remain independent, and we will defend our freedom against any threat. The aliens in the room began to laugh. The sound was harsh and mocking, filled with the arrogance of beings who had never faced real resistance. General Crixtal's laugh was the loudest of all. Your defiance is amusing but pointless, the general said. We have 50,000 ships, waiting at the edge of your system. You have perhaps a few hundred crewed vessels. Mathematics alone makes your resistance impossible. Captain Lee stepped forward. He had remained silent during the exchange, studying the alien representatives and noting details that would be useful in the coming battle. Now he smiled at General Crixtal with the confidence of someone who knew secrets the enemy could not imagine. General, you seem very sure of your numbers, Captain Lee said. Tell me, how long have your ships been traveling to reach our system? General Crixtal looked confused by the question. What does that matter? We have been traveling for several months to reach your primitive world. Several months, Captain Lee repeated. And during that time, did you think we were just sitting here, waiting for you to arrive? Did you think we had no idea you were coming? The laughter in the room stopped. Dr. Park saw uncertainty beginning to creep into the aliens' expressions. They had assumed that their approach had been undetected, that humanity was completely unaware of the threat until this moment. We have been tracking your fleet since it left Coalition space. Admiral Kim's voice came through the communicator from Earth's command center. We know exactly how many ships you have, what weapons they carry, and which species cruise them. We have been preparing for your arrival for months. General Crixtal's confidence wavered for the first time. The Coalition had built their entire strategy around surprise and overwhelming force. The idea that their target had been preparing for their attack was something they had never encountered before. Impossible, the general said. Your technology cannot detect our ships at such distances. Dr. Park smiled for the first time during the meeting. General, you've made an error that many powerful civilizations have made throughout history. You've underestimated your enemy because you think you understand them. You see primitive ships and assume primitive minds. You see a young civilization and assume ignorance. But humanity has one advantage you've never faced before. And what is that? General Crixtal demanded. We learn, Dr. Park said simply. Every time your scouts have entered our space, we've learned something new. Every piece of your technology we've encountered, we've studied and improved upon. Every tactic you've used against other species, we've analyzed and prepared counters for. You think you're fighting the same humanity that first left Earth 50 years ago. You're wrong. The meeting ended in tense silence. The Coalition representatives returned to their ships, carrying the news that Earth would not surrender. Dr. Park and Captain Lee returned to Earth's command center, where Admiral Kim and Commander Yoon were waiting with final preparations for the coming battle. They'll attack within days, Dr. Park reported. General Crixtal won't wait the full 30 days. He's angry and wants to make an example of us. Admiral Kim nodded. Good. Anger makes people careless, and careless enemies make mistakes. Are our special preparations ready? Commander Yoon checked her data pad. All hidden installations are online. The asteroid belt modifications are complete. Our friends in Coalition space are standing by. Earth is ready for war. Captain Lee looked out at the stars where the enemy fleet was gathering. They think they're hunting sheep. They're about to discover they've cornered wolves. The die was cast. The greatest invasion force in galactic history was moving toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority. But humanity had spent 50 years learning that the universe was a dangerous place, and they had prepared accordingly. The Coalition was about to learn that some borders should never be crossed, and that humanity would fight for their freedom, with a determination that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The Coalition fleet moved through space like a metal storm, 50,000 ships advancing in perfect formation toward Earth's solar system. General Crixtal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. No species had ever resisted the Coalition for more than a few days. The humans would learn their place soon enough. Lieutenant Colonel Choi Jin-woo sat in the cockpit of his fighter, hidden among the asteroids of the Kuiper Belt. His squadron of 20 pilots waited in silence, their ships powered down to avoid detection. They had been here for 6 hours, watching the enemy fleet approach. The aliens moved with the confidence of beings who had never faced real opposition. "All units, this is Falcon Leader," Lieutenant Colonel Choi whispered into his communicator. "Enemy scouts are entering the engagement zone. Remember, we're not here to win this fight. We're here to teach them that humans don't follow their rules." Professor Nam Kyung-soo monitored the approaching fleet from his hidden observation post on Pluto. For 30 years, he had been Earth's chief military engineer, designing weapons and defenses for a war he knew would eventually come. The Coalition Scouts were beautiful ships, sleek and powerful, built by civilizations that had mastered space travel long before humans invented the wheel. But beauty meant nothing in combat. The first Coalition Scout ship detected anomalous readings from the asteroid belt and moved to investigate. Its captain was a Zileth officer who had fought in dozens of campaigns against primitive species. He expected to find crude human ships hiding among the rocks, easy targets for his advanced weapons systems. Instead, he found something impossible. Lieutenant Colonel Choi activated his fighter and emerged from behind a massive asteroid, his ship accelerating at speeds that should have crushed any living pilot. The G-forces were enormous, but human pilots had trained for years to endure punishment that would kill most alien species. The Zileth captain had no time to react before the human fighter slammed into his ship's hull. The explosion lit up the darkness of space. Lieutenant Colonel Choi's fighter was destroyed, but so was the Coalition Scout. The other human pilots watched their leader sacrifice himself without hesitation, then followed his example. One by one, they emerged from hiding and rammed their fighters into enemy ships, trading their lives for strategic advantage. General Kriegstahl received the reports from his scouts with growing confusion. The humans were using suicide tactics, throwing away their pilots' lives for minimal strategic gain. It made no sense according to any military doctrine the Coalition had ever encountered. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost 12 scout ships to human attack runs, but the enemy fighters were all destroyed as well. They're literally ramming our vessels." "Madness," General Kriegstahl muttered. "No rational species wastes pilots like this. Increase our advance speed. We'll crush their main fleet before they can sacrifice more lives pointlessly." Major Kang Ye-jin watched the battle reports from Earth's Intelligence Center. Every human death was a tragedy, but Lieutenant Colonel Choi and his pilots had accomplished exactly what they intended. The Coalition now thought they understood. Human tactics, crude, wasteful, and desperate. They were wrong, but that misunderstanding would cost them dearly. Captain Bae Dong-hyun received new orders aboard his stealth ship, hidden in the shadow of Neptune. His mission was different from the suicide squadrons. While the Coalition focused on the dramatic fighter attacks, Captain Bae was hunting bigger prey. A Vorthak heavy cruiser had separated from the main fleet to investigate the outer planets. It would not be returning to report its findings. The Coalition fleet continued its advance, now moving faster to avoid more suicide attacks. General Kriegstahl was confident that human resistance would collapse once his main force reached their defensive positions. 50,000 ships against a few hundred human vessels was not a battle. It was an extermination. Dr. Shin Ha-young worked frantically in her laboratory aboard Earth's primary research station. Pieces of destroyed Coalition scout ships had been recovered by human salvage teams, and she was racing to analyze alien technology before the main battle began. What she discovered changed everything. "Admiral Kim," Dr. Shin reported over the communicator, "the alien shields operate on a rotating frequency that changes every 30 seconds. But there's a gap in the rotation, a brief moment when the shields are vulnerable to kinetic impact." Admiral Kim smiled grimly. Human weapons were considered primitive by galactic standards because they relied on kinetic energy rather than exotic particle beams. But primitive weapons could be devastatingly effective if used correctly. The Coalition fleet reached the asteroid belt and found it strangely empty. General Kriegstahl had expected to encounter the main human defensive force here, but his sensors detected only scattered mining equipment and abandoned stations. The humans appeared to have retreated to the inner system, probably hoping to make their last stand near their home planet. Sergeant Yang Min-jae floated in zero gravity inside one of those abandoned mining stations. His team of 50 Marines had been waiting here for days, equipped with captured alien weapons and armor. The Coalition fleet was passing directly through their position, completely unaware that every piece of mining equipment in the asteroid belt had been converted into a weapon. "All stations! This is Hammer Base," Sergeant Yang whispered into his communicator. "The enemy is in the kill zone. Execute Operation Rockslide." The asteroid belt came alive with violence. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from camouflaged positions and began firing on the Coalition fleet. Massive chunks of rock, accelerated by hidden mass drivers, slammed into alien ships at tremendous velocities. The asteroids themselves had been turned into kinetic weapons, guided by human engineers who understood that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. General Krixtal watched in horror as his orderly fleet formation dissolved into chaos. The humans had weaponized an entire asteroid belt, turning millions of tons of rock into guided missiles. His ship's energy shields were useless against such massive kinetic impacts. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," General Krixtal ordered. "Return fire on those weapon platforms." But the human installations were built into the asteroids themselves, protected by kilometers of solid rock. Coalition energy weapons could destroy the surface installations, but new ones kept emerging from hidden positions. The humans had spent 50 years preparing this killing field, and they knew every rock, every hiding place, every tactical advantage. Captain Lee Min-ho led the first wave of human warships into battle, emerging from behind the larger asteroids, where they had been waiting. His ship, the Terra Nova, looked crude compared to the sleek Coalition vessels, but appearances were deceiving. Human engineers had studied captured alien technology for years, and they had learned to combine it with uniquely human innovations. The Terra Nova fired its main guns at a Coalition destroyer, sending streams of dense metal projectiles through space at incredible velocities. The alien ship's shields deflected the first impacts, but Dr. Shin's research had been accurate. During the brief gap in the shield rotation, several projectiles penetrated the defenses and tore through the destroyer's hull. Coalition Admiral Vextar commanded the fleet's eastern wing and was the first to understand the true scope of human preparations. The asteroid belt wasn't just armed, it was fortified. Every large rock concealed weapons, sensors, or supply depots. The humans had turned their entire outer system into a fortress. General Krixtal, Admiral Vextar reported, "This is not the primitive defense we were expecting. The humans have prepared for years. Their tactics are unconventional but effective. Request permission to withdraw and reassess." "Withdrawal is not an option," General Krixtal replied angrily. "We outnumber them 100 to 1. Press the attack." But numbers meant nothing when the battlefield itself was your enemy. Human ships darted between the asteroids with reckless precision, using the rocky terrain to avoid Coalition fire while launching devastating attacks from unexpected angles. Every human pilot seemed willing to die for even the smallest tactical advantage. Professor Nam Kyung-soo activated the final phase of his asteroid belt defenses. Hidden nuclear charges detonated throughout the field, not to destroy Coalition ships directly, but to change the orbital patterns of millions of rocks. The carefully ordered space around the asteroids became a chaotic storm of debris, moving at velocities that would crush any ship caught in the wrong place. The Coalition fleet found itself fighting not just human ships, but the asteroid belt itself. Navigation became a nightmare, as previously stable rocks began moving in unpredictable patterns. Coalition captains, trained for organized fleet combat, struggled to adapt to three-dimensional warfare where the terrain constantly changed. Commander Yoon Sora watched the battle from her command ship and smiled with grim satisfaction. The first phase of Earth's defense was working perfectly. The Coalition had expected to face a desperate but futile resistance. Instead, they were discovering that humans had prepared for this war with a thoroughness that shocked the galaxy. But this was only the beginning. The asteroid belt was just the outer edge of Earth's defenses. As the Coalition fleet pushed deeper into the solar system, The Coalition fleet limped through the inner solar system, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. General Krixtal had lost 8,000 ships fighting through the asteroid belt, and the humans had shown no sign of weakening. If anything, they seemed to grow more dangerous with each engagement. Captain Bae Dong-hyun studied the captured Vorthak heavy cruiser from his position on the bridge. His boarding team had taken the ship in a brutal hand-to-hand fight, using tactics that had shocked the alien crew. The Vorthaks were warriors, but they fought with honor and dignity. Humans fought to win, using every dirty trick and desperate maneuver they could imagine. "Dr. Shin, we've secured the alien ship," Captain Bae reported through his communicator. "The crew is in our custody, and we're downloading their computer systems now." Dr. Shin Ha-young received the transmission at her laboratory on Mars, where she had been relocated for safety. The captured Coalition technology was beyond anything Earth had ever seen, but human engineers had always been good at learning from their enemies. Within hours, she would understand alien shield systems better than the aliens themselves. "Excellent work, Captain," Dr. Shin replied. "Transfer all data to my lab immediately. We need to understand their weaknesses before the main fleet reaches our inner defenses." Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched the battle reports from Earth's command center and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Coalition was learning that humans were not the primitive species they had expected, but this was still only the beginning of humanity's real plan. "Commander Yoon," Admiral Kim called to his Special Operations Chief, "it's time to activate our sleeper cells. Let our friends in Coalition space know that the party has started." Commander Yoon Sora smiled as she sent coded messages across the galaxy. For years, human agents had been infiltrating Coalition worlds, posing as traitors, diplomats, and refugees. The aliens had never suspected that Earth was building a network of spies and saboteurs throughout their territory. On 12 different worlds, human operatives received their activation orders and began their missions. Weapons factories exploded. Communication networks went dark. Supply convoys disappeared. The Coalition had focused all their attention on conquering Earth, while their own empire began burning from within. Sergeant Yang Min-jae led his Marines through the corridors of a captured Coalition supply ship. The aliens had fought bravely, but they were not prepared for the savage efficiency of human infantry combat. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other in close quarters, and those skills translated perfectly to fighting aliens. "All cargo holds secured," Sergeant Yang reported. "We've captured enough alien technology to arm 3 more regiments. These weapons are incredible, but their targeting systems are designed for species with slower reflexes than humans." The Coalition fleet approached Jupiter, expecting to encounter another defensive line. Instead, they found something that challenged every assumption they had made about human capabilities. The massive planet's gravity well had been turned into a weapon. Professor Nam Kyung-soo had spent years calculating the orbital mechanics needed to turn Jupiter into a slingshot. Human ships dove toward the giant planet at suicidal speeds, using its gravitational pull to achieve velocities that should have liquefied their crews. But human pilots endured G-forces that would kill most alien species, emerging from their gravity-assisted acceleration runs like missiles fired from the planet itself. Coalition Admiral Vextar watched in disbelief as human fighters achieved impossible speeds using Jupiter's gravity. The mathematical precision required for such maneuvers was staggering, but the humans executed them flawlessly. Their ships screamed past Coalition vessels at velocities that made accurate targeting nearly impossible. "General Krixtal," Admiral Vextar reported, "the humans are using the planet's gravity as a weapon. Our targeting computers cannot track ships moving at those speeds." "Impossible," General Krixtal replied. "No organic pilot can survive those acceleration forces." But humans could, because they had been training for exactly this scenario. Every human pilot had spent months in centrifuges, building up tolerance for crushing G-forces. They had practiced these maneuvers in simulators until the impossible became routine. Major Kang Ye-jin coordinated the intelligence war from her hidden base on Europa. Coalition communications had been intercepted and decoded, revealing the growing panic among alien commanders. They were beginning to understand that humanity was not just defending their home system, but actively hunting Coalition forces throughout the galaxy. "Admiral Kim," Major Kang reported, Our operatives have successfully sabotaged Coalition supply lines in 17 star systems. Their reserve fleets are stranded without fuel or ammunition. The aliens are starting to realize they're fighting a war on multiple fronts. Dr. Shin Ha-young worked with manic intensity, reverse engineering alien technology as fast as human teams could capture it. The Coalition had technological advantages, but they had grown complacent over centuries of easy victories. Human engineers, desperate and innovative, were learning to match alien science in months rather than years. "I've cracked their shield harmonics," Dr. Shin announced to Admiral Kim. "Better yet, I figured out how to overload their power systems using their own technology against them." Admiral Kim smiled grimly. "Excellent. Prepare the technical data for immediate distribution to all human ships. It's time to show the Coalition what happens when you give humans access to superior technology." The battle around Jupiter became a massacre, but not the one the Coalition had expected. Human ships, now equipped with modified alien weapons and powered by hybrid technology, tore through Coalition formations with devastating efficiency. The aliens had created the tools of their own destruction. Captain Lee Min-ho commanded the Terra Nova as it engaged a Coalition battleship 3 times its size. The alien vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, armed with weapons that could destroy planets, but its crew had never faced an enemy that adapted and evolved during combat. "Fire all weapons," Captain Lee ordered. "Target their shield generators," using Dr. Shin's frequency analysis. The Terra Nova's guns, now firing alien-designed projectiles at human-calculated frequencies, punched through the Coalition battleship's defenses like they were paper. The massive alien vessel exploded in a ball of plasma, its own advanced technology turned against it by human ingenuity. Coalition Admiral Vextar realized the horrible truth about their situation. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were learning. Every captured ship, every piece of alien technology, every tactical mistake made the enemy stronger. The Coalition was literally teaching their destroyers how to destroy them. "General Krixtal," Admiral Vextar sent an urgent message, "We must withdraw immediately. The humans are reverse engineering our technology faster than we can deploy it. Every day we fight makes them more dangerous." But General Krixtal's pride would not allow retreat. The Coalition had never withdrawn from a conquest, and he would not be the first to show such weakness. "Continue the advance. We still outnumber them. Overwhelming force will prevail." Commander Yoon Sora received reports from across the galaxy. Human saboteurs had struck at the heart of Coalition power, destroying key installations and freeing enslaved populations. Species that had been conquered generations ago were rising in rebellion, inspired by news of human resistance. "The Keleth system has declared independence," Commander Yoon reported to Admiral Kim. "Their defense fleet is moving to support our forces. The Vorthak homeworld is experiencing widespread civil unrest. Our agents report that Coalition morale is collapsing." The psychological impact of human success was spreading faster than any military victory. For the first time in galactic history, the Coalition looked vulnerable. Species across the galaxy were realizing that the seemingly invincible empire could be defeated. Dr. Shin Ha-young made another breakthrough in her analysis of alien technology. "Admiral, I've discovered something remarkable about Coalition ship design. They've optimized everything for fighting primitive enemies. Their ships are actually vulnerable to the kind of coordinated adaptive tactics humans use naturally." "Explain," Admiral Kim requested. "They've never faced an enemy that learns and adapts during combat," Dr. Shin continued. "Their entire military doctrine assumes technological superiority will overcome any resistance. But humans use tactics they've never encountered, powered by technology they taught us to build." The Coalition fleet finally reached Mars, expecting to find Earth's last line of defense. Instead, they discovered that the red planet had been turned into a fortress that made the asteroid belt look simple. Every canyon, every mountain, every crater concealed weapons designed by human engineers who understood that wars were won by superior thinking, not superior firepower. Sergeant Yang Min-jae led his expanded Marine Corps in a series of raids against Coalition landing forces. The aliens had expected to face desperate resistance from a beaten enemy. Instead, they encountered human soldiers equipped with the best weapons from a dozen different alien civilizations, all modified and improved by human engineering. "The enemy is retreating from the Valles Marineris sector," Sergeant Yang reported. "They can't handle our hit-and-run tactics." The Coalition fleet hung in space near Mars like a wounded animal, their once proud formation reduced to scattered groups of damaged ships. General Krixtal had lost 20,000 vessels in 6 months of fighting, and Earth's defenses showed no sign of weakening. If anything, human resistance grew stronger with each passing day. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood in Earth's command center, watching reports pour in from across the galaxy. The plan he had spent decades developing was finally reaching its climax. The Coalition had expected to fight a quick war against a primitive enemy. Instead, they were discovering that Earth had been preparing for a much larger conflict. "Commander Yoon, status report on our external operations," Admiral Kim requested. Commander Yoon So-ra consulted her data displays with satisfaction. 17 Coalition worlds have declared independence and are actively fighting their former masters. Our sleeper cells have destroyed 47 major military installations. Coalition supply lines are completely disrupted across 3 sectors. The genius of humanity's strategy was becoming clear. While the Coalition focused their attention on conquering Earth, humans had been systematically dismantling their empire from within. Every day the siege continued, more Coalition worlds fell into rebellion. Dr. Shin Ha-young worked in her expanded laboratory complex, now the size of a small city buried beneath Mars' surface. Captured alien technology filled every available space, being analyzed, improved, and mass-produced by human engineers who had learned to think beyond the limitations of their original designs. "Admiral, we've completed reverse engineering of Coalition battle computers," Dr. Shin reported. "But we've made significant improvements. Human tactical programs can process battlefield information faster than alien systems because we're used to chaos and adaptation." Captain Bae Dong-hyun commanded a growing fleet of captured Coalition vessels, all modified with human improvements. His original crew had expanded to include defectors from a dozen alien species who had grown tired of Coalition oppression. The galaxy was learning that humans fought not for conquest, but for freedom. Admiral Kim, Captain Bae transmitted from his flagship, the former Vorthak cruiser, now renamed Liberator, "Our reconnaissance patrols report Coalition reinforcement fleets are trapped in their home sectors. The rebellions we've sparked are keeping them busy defending their own worlds." The psychological impact of human success was spreading faster than military victories. For centuries, the Coalition had maintained control through fear and overwhelming force. But humans had proven that the mighty empire could be beaten, and oppressed species across the galaxy were taking inspiration from Earth's example. Professor Nam Kyung-soo unveiled the final phase of Earth's defensive preparations. Hidden shipyards throughout the outer planets began launching vessels that combined the best of human engineering with captured alien technology. The primitive species the Coalition had come to conquer was now building ships that surpassed anything in the galaxy. "Launch sequence initiated," Professor Nam announced. "The new fleet is ready for deployment." The ships that emerged from hidden construction facilities were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They looked human in design, but incorporated technological advances stolen from a dozen different alien civilizations. Fast, heavily armed, and crewed by the most motivated fighting force in the galaxy, they represented humanity's transition from defender to liberator. Major Kang Ye-jin coordinated intelligence operations from her new headquarters on Luna. Coalition communications had been completely compromised, allowing human forces to anticipate enemy movements and strike at precisely the right moments. The aliens' own superior technology had become a weapon in human hands. "All Coalition command frequencies are under our control," Major Kang reported. "We're feeding them false information about our fleet positions while gathering complete intelligence on their operations. They're fighting blind while we see everything." General Krixtal received the latest casualty reports with growing despair. His mighty invasion force had been reduced to fewer than 25,000 ships, and new intelligence suggested that human military strength was actually increasing. Somehow, the primitive species had turned their defensive war into a recruitment campaign for the entire galaxy. Coalition Admiral Vex Tar requested an emergency meeting with his commanding general. The tactical situation had become untenable, but General Kriegstahl's pride prevented him from acknowledging the obvious truth. "Sir, we must withdraw immediately," Admiral Vextar urged. "The humans have superior intelligence, motivated allies, and technology that matches or exceeds our own. Every day we remain here makes them stronger, while weakening us further." "Retreat is not an option," General Kriegstahl replied stubbornly. "The coalition has never retreated from any conquest. We will prevail through superior numbers and firepower, but numbers meant nothing when the enemy controlled the battlefield. Human ships struck from unexpected directions, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They fought like pirates and terrorists, showing no respect. For traditional military honor, Sergeant Yang Min-jae led his Marine Expeditionary Force in attacks against coalition ground installations throughout the solar system. His troops were now equipped with the finest weapons from across the galaxy, all improved by human engineering and powered by human determination. "We've liberated the prison camps on Titan," Sergeant Yang reported. "Recovered over 3,000. Alien prisoners who were being held as slave laborers. Most of them want to join our forces and fight against their former captors." The coalition had inadvertently created their own worst nightmare. By conquering and oppressing species across the galaxy, they had given humanity a ready-made army of motivated allies. Every freed prisoner became a potential recruit in Earth's growing liberation movement. Dr. Shin Ha-young made her most important discovery yet. "Admiral Kim, I've analyzed the complete coalition command structure. Their entire military operates on rigid hierarchical principles that make them vulnerable to disruption attacks. If we can eliminate key command nodes, their fleet coordination will collapse. Prepare detailed targeting information for our strike forces," Admiral Kim ordered. "It's time to end this siege and take the war to them." Captain Lee Min-ho received orders for humanity's most ambitious operation yet. His ship, the Terra Nova, would lead a strike force deep into coalition-controlled space to attack their primary command facility. The mission was extremely dangerous, but success would cripple enemy coordination across the galaxy. "All ships, this is Terra Nova Actual," Captain Lee transmitted to his task force. "We're going to hit them where they live. Today we stop defending and start liberating." The human strike force consisted of 50 ships, half of them captured coalition vessels. Operated by human crews with alien defectors, they moved through space with the confidence of hunters who had learned their prey's weaknesses through months of careful study. Commander Yoon So-ra coordinated simultaneous attacks against coalition installations in 17 star systems. Human operatives, working with local resistance groups, struck at communication centers, supply depots, and military command posts. The galaxy-wide rebellion reached its crescendo as humanity revealed the true scope of their preparations. "All objectives achieved," Commander Yoon reported to Admiral Kim. "Coalition command and control is fragmenting across the outer territories. Their fleet commanders are losing contact with higher authority." General Kriegstahl watched his tactical displays with growing horror as reports arrived from across coalition space. The humans had not been defending their single world. They had been conducting a galaxy-wide campaign of liberation. His invasion of Earth had been the trigger for the largest military uprising in galactic history. "Sir," his communications officer reported with barely controlled panic, "we're receiving distress calls from the coalition capital system. Human forces have broken through our defensive perimeter and are attacking the high command facility directly." The impossible had happened. The primitive species that was supposed to surrender within 30 days had instead launched successful attacks against the heart of coalition power. General Kriegstahl realized with sick certainty that he had led the greatest military force in galactic history into a trap that had been decades in the making. Captain Bae Dong-hyun led the attack on the coalition's primary command station, his captured alien ship proving that human improvements could exceed original specifications. The station's defenses were formidable, but they had been designed to repel external attacks, not raids by ships that appeared to be coalition vessels. "All boarding teams, this is Liberator Actual," Captain Bae transmitted. "We're going in. Remember, we're here to liberate, not to conquer. Any coalition personnel who surrender will be treated with dignity." The coalition command station fell within hours, its defenders overwhelmed by human marines who fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive ferocity. But the real victory was not military. It was symbolic. The galaxy's oppressed, Populations now knew that their seemingly invincible masters could be defeated. Admiral Kim Tae-ho received the final reports from Captain Lee's strike force with quiet satisfaction. The Coalition's command structure had been shattered. The Coalition flagship hung in space like a broken monument to failed conquest. General Kriegstall stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of everything he had spent his life building. Around Earth's solar system, the remnants of his once mighty fleet waited in sullen silence for humanity's final judgment. Admiral Kim Tae-ho prepared for the most important broadcast in galactic history. For 6 months, Earth had fought not just for survival, but for the freedom of every oppressed species in the galaxy. Now it was time to make that vision a reality. "Citizens of the galaxy," Admiral Kim began, his words transmitted to every inhabited world by captured Coalition communication networks. "The age of oppression is over. The Coalition's reign of terror has ended, not through conquest, but through the simple recognition that freedom is the birthright of every sentient being." On 1,000 worlds, enslaved populations heard those words and dared to hope for the first time in generations. The humans had done the impossible, defeating the greatest military force in galactic history through superior preparation, innovative tactics, and an unshakable commitment to liberty. Dr. Park Hye-jin worked with representatives from 17 different species to establish the framework for galactic governance that would replace the Coalition's iron rule. The new system would be based on cooperation rather than domination, with humanity serving as protector rather than ruler. The Galactic Council for Species Equality will ensure that no single power can ever again threaten the freedom of independent worlds, Dr. Park announced to the assembled delegates. Earth pledges its military strength to defend any species facing oppression or conquest. Captain Lee Min-ho commanded the human fleet as it spread throughout Coalition space, liberating prison camps and establishing humanitarian aid stations. The former conquerors were learning that human occupation meant medicine, food, and protection for those who needed it most. "Liberation of the Antares sector is complete," Captain Lee reported to Admiral Kim. "We've freed over 2 million slaves and established defensive positions to prevent any Coalition loyalist attacks. The local populations are requesting permanent human protection." Professor Nam Kyung-soo oversaw the greatest engineering project in galactic history. Human shipyards, now operating with technology stolen from a dozen different civilizations, were building a new generation of vessels designed specifically for peacekeeping rather than conquest. The galaxy's new protectors would have the finest ships ever created. "Construction of the first Guardian-class battleships is ahead of schedule," Professor Nam reported. "These vessels combine the best technology from every species in the galaxy, all improved by human engineering. No future aggressor will be able to match their capabilities." Commander Yoon So-ra established training facilities throughout liberated space, teaching former Coalition subjects how to defend themselves against future threats. The galaxy's oppressed populations were learning human military tactics, ensuring that freedom once won would never again be lost. "Defensive militias are operational in 47 star systems," Commander Yoon reported. "These forces are trained in human tactical doctrine and equipped with our latest weapons. Any species attempting conquest will face the same resistance." The Coalition encountered at Earth. General Kriegstall was brought before a human tribunal, not as a war criminal, but as a representative of the old order that had ruled through fear and violence. Admiral Kim personally conducted the proceedings, demonstrating the mercy that separated human justice from Coalition oppression. "General, you led an invasion force against Earth with the intention of enslaving our species," Admiral Kim stated, calmly. "However, you were following the laws and customs of your government. We offer you a choice. Spend your remaining years in comfortable retirement, or help us build a better galaxy by sharing your knowledge of Coalition military operations." The general's choice would symbolize the galaxy's future. He could cling to the past and face isolation, or embrace change and help create a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. Dr. Shin Ha-young established research stations throughout liberated space, sharing human innovations with every species that requested assistance. The technology that had defeated the Coalition would now be used to heal the wounds of centuries of oppression. Medical advances alone have saved over 50 million lives in the past month, Dr. Shin reported to the Galactic Council. Human surgical Techniques combined with alien healing technology are proving incredibly effective. We're also sharing our engineering improvements freely with all member species. Captain Bae Dong-hyun led the new integrated fleet, commanding ships crewed by humans and aliens working side by side. The former enemies were learning that cooperation produced results far superior to domination. His flagship, the Liberator, had become a symbol of galactic unity. Mixed crews are reporting excellent efficiency ratings, Captain Bae transmitted to Admiral Kim. Turns out that combining human tactical thinking with alien technical knowledge creates incredibly effective military units. We're stronger together than any single species could be alone. Major Kang Yejin established the Galactic Intelligence Service, but with a crucial difference from coalition practices. Instead of spying on subjects to maintain control, humans gathered information to prevent conflicts and protect the innocent. Knowledge became a tool for peace rather than oppression. Early warning systems are detecting no major military buildups anywhere in the galaxy, Major Kang reported to the Galactic Council. Several minor conflicts have been resolved through diplomatic intervention before they could escalate to warfare. Sergeant Yang Min-jae trained the new generation of galactic peacekeepers, teaching soldiers from dozens of different species how to fight for protection rather than conquest. The Marines who had liberated the galaxy now became teachers of freedom. Graduation. Ceremonies for the first integrated peacekeeping class will be held next week, Sergeant Yang reported. These troops represent 23 different species, all trained in human tactics and committed to defending the innocent. The transformation of galactic civilization proceeded with stunning speed. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries became productive members of a growing confederation. Trade replaced tribute, cooperation replaced conquest, and hope replaced fear. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood once again before the view screen in Earth's command center, but now he looked out at a galaxy fundamentally changed. Human ships patrolled. Trade routes that had once been coalition hunting grounds. Former prison worlds had become centers of learning and culture. The galaxy's dark age was ending. Status report on galactic reconstruction, Admiral Kim requested. Dr. Park Hae-jin consulted her datapad with satisfaction. 87% of former coalition worlds have joined the Galactic Council. Economic output is up 300% from pre-liberation levels. Most importantly, we've had 6 months without a single act of interspecies aggression. The success was beyond anything humanity had dared to hope. By defending their own freedom, humans had accidentally triggered the liberation of an entire galaxy. The species that had once faced extinction had become the galaxy's protectors and teachers. General Krixtal made his choice, appearing before the Galactic Council to formally renounce the Coalition's philosophy of conquest. His speech would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy's dark age officially ended. For generations, my people believed that strength meant the ability to dominate others, the former general admitted. The humans have taught us that true strength lies in the ability to protect others. I pledge whatever knowledge I possess to help build a galaxy where no species lives in fear. The applause that greeted his words came from representatives of species that had been coalition enemies for centuries. Humanity's example of mercy and forgiveness was healing wounds that had festered for generations. Professor Nam Kyung-soo unveiled plans for the galaxy's future development. Human engineering principles, combined with the best technology from every member species, would create a civilization more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The new shipyards will produce vessels designed for exploration, not conquest, Professor Nam announced. We're going to map every star, contact every intelligent species, and offer them membership in our growing family of free worlds. Commander Yoon So-ra established the Galactic Emergency Response Service, using human special operations techniques to respond to natural disasters, medical emergencies, and any remaining threats to peace. The skills that had defeated the Coalition now serve to protect the innocent. Response teams are standing by in every sector, Commander Yoon reported. Any world facing crisis can expect human assistance within hours. We're not just defenders anymore, we're the galaxy's first responders. Dr. Shin Ha-young made the announcement that would define humanity's ultimate legacy. Research into faster-than-light communication has been successful. We can now coordinate galactic civilization in real time, ensuring that no world is ever again isolated or forgotten. Admiral Kim Tae-ho received the final reports on galactic transformation with quiet pride. The species that had once faced extinction in 30 days had instead become the foundation for a new age of peace and prosperity.